We're ready to go.
Wonderful. This is the ordinary meeting of the Council on the 25th of October 2022, held via remote technology. I now hand you over to our Chief Executive Officer, Dr. Rosemary Dillon.
Thank you, Storm. Good evening, councillors, staff and Blue Mountains community. Welcome to this ordinary meeting of the Blue Mountains City Council. This meeting is being recorded and will be live streamed. An audio file and a link to a live stream is available from the Council's website. The audio recording will be available on the Council's website for 6 months after the upload date. As all statements made at this meeting will be recorded, your image and voice may be recognised and other people may be aware that you have attended the meeting. Your continued attendance at this meeting after this statement is made is taken as your consent to use your image and voice being webcast. All persons in attendance at this meeting, whether addressing the council or making comments that may be detected by the recording equipment, should refrain from making any defamatory comments or from releasing any personal or confidential information about another individual without the other individual's consent. The council is not responsible for the statements of any individual made during this meeting, and any defamatory statements or any statements which include personal or confidential information are the sole responsibility of the individual who makes them. The Council's Code of Meeting Practice sets standards of conduct for a council meeting. If any person in attendance at the meeting acts in a disorderly manner, or if a person makes defamatory or unacceptable comments, then the meeting may be interrupted by the Mayor or by me, the Chief Executive Officer, and appropriate action taken. This meeting must not be recorded by any party other than the council, and members of the public have been invited to provide submissions to items on the meeting agenda in advance, and any submissions received have been provided to the councillors. I ask you to please welcome the Mayor.
Good evening, councillors, staff and also members of the public. May wisdom guide the deliberations of this council so that its decisions advance the true welfare of the people of the City of Blue Mountains. The City of the Blue Mountains is located within the country of the Darug and the Gundungurra peoples. The Blue Mountain City Council recognises that Darug and Gundungurra traditional owners have a deep and continuous connection to their country, and that this is of great cultural significance to Aboriginal people both locally and in the region. For Darug and Gundungurra people, Ungara takes in everything within the physical, cultural and spiritual landscape: landforms, waters, air, trees, rocks, plants, animals, foods, medicines, minerals, stories and special places. It includes cultural practice, kinship, knowledge, song, stories and art, as well as spiritual beings and people, past, present and future. Blue Mountain City Council pays respect to elders, past and present, while recognising the strength, capacity and resilience of past and present Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people in Blue Mountains region. Thank you all for your attendance tonight. We have one apology standing in the name of Councillor Sage. There are no other apologies. Councillor Christie's a late apology. He'll be here shortly. So we'll just note the apology of Councillor Sage and the late apology of Councillor Christie. I have a mover and seconder for that. It's moved Councillor Fell, seconded Councillor Hollywood. All those in favour, against, declare it carried unanimously. Confirmation of the minutes of the meeting held on the 27th of September 2022. I move Councillor Fell, seconded Councillor Fisher. All those in favour, against, declare it carried. Will the staff please add my laser signature to those minutes? Mayoral minute number 1, standing in my name, Mayors for Peace. It's seconded by the Deputy Mayor. Can I just very briefly indicate that, as you know, in August 1945, the first nuclear weapons ever used in human history in war caused an indescribable catastrophe for the cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And to this day, a number of A-bomb survivors are still suffering physically, psychologically and socially from various after effects. Nevertheless, nuclear weapons have not been abolished, and we've seen in the conflict in the Ukraine threats by the Russian leader to use them again. They continue to threaten human existence. Mayors for Peace has a goal. It's a global organisation that is to maintain environments that enable citizens in all cultures to lead safe lives and to contribute to the attainment of lasting world peace. Mayors for Peace's pledge is to make every effort to create intercity solidarity, so between city solidarity that transcends national boundaries and ideological differences in order to achieve the total abolition of nuclear weapons and prevent the reoccurrence of what we saw in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. It's a circumstance where mayors across the world will seek to lead where perhaps governments are not. The member for Macquarie, Susan Templeman, met with the international arm of this organisation and indicated that her view that I would be a willing participant. I am, and I seek your support to join that movement. Does the seconder wish to speak?
No, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I will yield.
Thank you for your support, Deputy Mayor. Anyone oppose this mayoral minute or wish to speak to it? If not, there's one matter before us. I'll put it all those in favour. Against, declare it carried unanimously, and I thank you all for your support. Mayoral minute number 2 is, I had a phone call a few weeks ago from Robert Tickner, the former Aboriginal Affairs Minister in the Keating government. He was also the CEO of the Red Cross and was responsible for the biggest donation the Mayoral Relief Fund received after the 2013 fires. I've been a close friend of Robert's for many years. He's a mentor and someone I respect immensely. He rang me, we had several phone calls about it. We crafted an email which you all received about this, this important initiative, support for the Justice Reform Initiative. Robert does request our support and the support of many other councils. The Justice Reform Initiative is a new organisation. It has on its board ex-High Court judges, Sir Anthony Mason, KC, is just one of them. Various ex-attorneys general from both Liberal and Labor governments have passed a part of the board. I know that Linda Scott, the head of the Australia Local Government Association, is also on the board. The Justice Reform Initiative, as I say, is a new organisation. And what it seeks to do is shift the public conversation and therefore public policy away from sort of building more prisons and this sort of hairy-chested view of law and order as the primary response to the criminal justice system and issues around that, moving instead to a proven alternative evidence-based approach which breaks the cycle of incarceration, especially of young people and Aboriginal people. The initiative is committed to elevating approaches which seek to address the causes of contact with the criminal justice system, the things that bring people into contact with the criminal justice system, things like homelessness, mental health issues, cognitive impairment, unemployment, lack of access to education, and of course, problematic drug and alcohol abuse. These are the things that, if you treat, will reduce both crime and the need for incarceration. So the initiative has produced a substantial public report, and in the mayoral minute, I've got a link to that public report. That public report highlights the concerns of the initiative about the huge increase in the New South Wales prison population. And I note the New South Wales government refused UN inspectors access to prisons just this week, and there'll be more on that at a later council meeting. But there's been a surge in the prison population in New South Wales, and the initiative highlights the cost, effective and evidence-based alternatives that exist to just endless incarceration, and indeed that will cut what is an extraordinarily high recidivism rate in this state. And as I say, you'll find the link to the report in the mayoral minute. So the initiative isn't seeking to attribute blame to either the current New South Wales government or previous New South Wales government for this state of affairs, which has been created over decades as a result of the so-called law and order auction process that we've all seen. And let's face it, both sides of politics have been guilty of in the past, pardon the pun. We are, however, calling, the initiative is, and I think we are as a council, if we pass this, calling on both sides to put this era behind them and to work together with minor parties and independents in a multi-partisan approach that's based on evidence and good policy. We now have an incarceration level in Australia which is higher than all the countries in Western Europe and Canada. And these policies we see are failing to turn around a very high recidivism rate, which is a high crime rate. And it comes at such a great cost to our country. The annual cost of the operation of our prison system across Australia is now a staggering $5 billion a year. And the capital cost of proposed new prisons will add billions to that cost. So as Mayor of this council, I'd like for our local government, because many others will be joining, to join this initiative and call for rational discussion around law and order. You all know I've got a legal background myself, and I think that it ought to be evidence. It ought to be the system based on evidence and justice that determines these things. High recidivism rate means a higher crime rate, and a higher crime rate hurts the most vulnerable in our community. It's time that we actually got down to dealing with the issues that lead to crime rather than using the criminal justice system as a political football. And I'll finish bang on time. Councillor Van Opdorp has agreed to second this resolution. I know that she knows Robert as well. Councillor Van Opdorp, do you wish to speak? And I thank the Deputy Mayor for allowing Councillor Van Opdorp to step up. It's appreciated. Councillor Van Opdorp, the floor is yours, should you want it.
Thanks, Mayor. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to second the motion, because the whole issue of prison reform and justice, for me, it's a very important issue. I kind of feel like what we're doing is we're investing at the wrong end. We should be investing in things like housing, mental health support, drug and alcohol rehab, to stop people from getting into going into prison. In some ways, our crime rates aren't actually increasing, but the incarceration rates are. So it says a lot about the way things are being policed, and also people who have faced multiple disadvantages ending up being criminalised and facing prison sentences. So, I see that as it's just a really wrong thing. It's a waste of human resources. And then if you think about the families that are impacted by this, when people are imprisoned, you have, and by and large, Aboriginal people are so massively overrepresented, and their families are often a very long way away from them. And therefore, you have the risk of deaths in custody. Families are broken up, children get to see their parents. It's really an intergenerational issue, and something that I think, we've really got to have that evidence-based policy, the debate that surrounds it. I remember watching a program on prison reform, which looked at the history of prisons, and thinking at the end of that program, wouldn't it be great that if in my lifetime, when we look back at how we've imprisoned vast numbers of people in Australia and also in other countries, that we look back and we go, what were we thinking? That was a solution to the problem of crime. It's a massive waste of human resource, massive waste of people's futures, and also a huge cost to the economy. So I really hope this the Justice Reform Initiative gets some support and is able to actually progress the issue of reform.
Thank you. And councillors, I am reminded that I've got to do declarations of interest, which I'll come to next. Are there any other speakers on this item? Yes, Councillor Redshaw.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. It was great to see this initiative from Robert Tinkner, and having worked in research in the area of Aboriginal incarceration and the sort of programs that actually work, and the evidence around support and providing the basics of living, the number of Aboriginal women that are put in jail disrupting families is just unbelievable, and the sorts of things that they're put in jail for, taken away from their families, as Susie said, the implications are enormous for this menial, nasty practice that really, all the evidence indicates that it's the wrong way to go. Even fining young people. I worked in the road safety area, and the Aboriginal young people would be fined for putting their feet on seats in trains, and then they'd never be able to get to pay the fine, and then they'd never be able to get a driver's license. I mean, the implications that follow from this kind of approach are devastating. So it's really, really good to see a substantial initiative that's going to take a different direction, and I really hope it makes some progress very soon.
Thanks, Councillor. Thanks, Councillor Redshaw. Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Hua.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you all for your supportive comments on this tremendously important initiative. Look, I just wanted to speak briefly to just to correct the record to state that the current board members include the former Mental Health Commissioner, John Finneally, an Aboriginal Indigenous Working Group member, Olga Havnen.
Councillor Hua, order. You're not correcting the record. I didn't give an exhaustive list. So if you wish to add the rest, be accurate, but you're not correcting the record.
Okay.
I simply mentioned one example.
I believe he's a patron, not a board member.
Well, I mentioned an example.
I don't want
Councillor Hall, don't speak over top of me. You're not correcting the record. If you wish to add an exhaustive list, you can.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, for your guidance. Yeah, so the board comprises of 6 extraordinary citizens, including our own Bob Debus, Nicholas Cowdrey and Lorana Bartels, in addition to over 100 patrons drawn, as you've correctly pointed out, Mr. Mayor, from all sides of politics, including our own Christine Milne from the Greens. And yeah, look, I think this is a much deserved, much needed initiative. It's very ambitious, and but the level of support and the range of supporters this initiative has is, I think, quite awe-inspiring. It's very, very persuasive to have so many people with such vast experience of the dysfunctionality of our criminal justice system, all pointing to the need for reform. And because as it happened at the local government conference today, I had a chat with a member of the constabulary who was very open in admitting that the system that they are running at the moment is not working. So that gave me great hope that perhaps the barriers to reform may not be as insurmountable as many might imagine. But yeah, there's a very clear need, and I think it's been well elaborated enough by other speakers already. I just merely wish to add the recent remark by one commentator that that it would actually be cheaper to send our young people to Harvard than it is to incarcerate them in the juvenile justice system. So yeah, I think it illustrates the point very well that reform is urgently needed, and I hope that by adding our voice to this initiative, it will happen faster than it otherwise might have. Thank you so much for taking the initiative, Mr. Mayor.
Yep, thank you. Any further speakers? I think everyone's in fierce agreement, aren't they? One matter before us, I'll put it. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations? No declarations? All right, thank you. All right, we'll now move on to items which councillors seek to address us on. I'll turn to Councillor Fell. Are there any items, Councillor Fell, that you seek to withdraw?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The items that I would like to withdraw are items numbered 17, 20, 21 and 22.
Thank you. They're withdrawn. I'll just go around the room. Councillor Schreiber, anything you wish to withdraw? You'll need to unmute.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Councillor Hua, anything you wish to withdraw?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm content.
Thank you. Councillor Redshaw, anything you wish to withdraw? No, you're fine. Just check Councillors West, Hollywood, Fisher, Van Ockdorp and Miles. Are you all content? Happy for you to nod. Yep, no issues to withdraw. Okay, thank you. Then what I'll ask is that items number 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 and 16, along with items 18, 19 and 23 are passed in globo. Let's move Councillor Fisher, seconded Councillor Fell. Those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. That brings me to item number 17. Councillor Hollywood, I'm told you have something you wish to move that's in the alternative to what's recommended. Am I right? And I
Yes.
understand that's seconded by Councillor West. Councillor Hollywood has the call.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I believe that the motion that I wish to move, which has been circulated to everybody, so just for members of the public, there just is a slight change to an addition to the section on in relation to Cleveland Street in Lawson. And so basically, in the report, and I just want to highlight this for the public record, in the report, it actually states that comments were sought on the proposed measures, which are welcome, from the surrounding businesses and residents in August 2022. And that council received no objections to the proposals. Now, the proposals, yes, have been welcomed, but in fact, there was feedback from a community member that could we consider speed bumps which were to be installed into Cleveland Street. That was part of the original petition from the residents at Cleveland Street, and part of the rationale for that was that we're trying to direct traffic from away from Cleveland Street along Adelaide Street and Wilson Street. And whilst the proposed traffic measures from the local traffic committee will deter people from going down Cleveland Street when they're going to South Lawson Park, it's unlikely that those traffic measures will actually deter people from taking a shortcut back to the shops and the highway. So we, the residents and myself and Councillor West really strongly believe that we should at least put in speed bumps even on a temporary measure. So that's what the amendment seeks to do, to include that, and that will be run past, I believe, an expedited process through the local traffic committee so that we can get this work happening. So I really hope that you will support this motion.
Thank you. Does the seconder wish to speak?
No, thank you.
No, okay. All right, anyone else wish to speak on this matter? Then there's one issue before us. I'll put it, all those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. I thank the mover and the seconder for their resolution. Item number 20, Councillor Hollywood, do I understand you wish to move the recommendations in the report as a resolution? Seconded, Councillor West. Councillor Hollywood has the call.
Thank you very much. Look, I wanted to highlight that this is this motion, this report is coming forward as a result of amendments that were made to the master plan to give our community some certainty if we were going to be holding larger scale events at Wentworth Falls Lake. The idea is that where the event, if you've read the report, where the event goes over 500 people, the proposed event, that in fact it does need to come before the council, before the governing body for approval. And also that in the report, it's highlighted that it's very important that the proposal includes a full traffic management plan. So I'm recommending that we support this because we know that the Anglican Church, Trinity Church in Wentworth Falls will actually be doing a traffic management plan. But at the same time, that traffic management plan will provide certainty for residents. But at the same time, we have gone through 3 years of challenges in terms of COVID-19, significant natural disasters and bushfires. And so I also believe that it's really important that we have this opportunity for local residents and the wider community to actually come together for a Christmas Carol community event at Wentworth Falls Lake. So I do support this process, which I think is really important. I just wanted to highlight that this is the first time we've had this process come before the governing body in this way. So I hope that people will support it.
Yes, thank you. Does the seconder wish to speak?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? There's one matter before us. I'll thank the mover and seconder. I'll put it all as in favour. Against, declare it carried unanimously. Notice as a motion, I'll ask the Deputy Mayor to take the chair so that I may move this one that I know Councillor Fisher seeks to support.
Thank you very much, Mr Mayor. You have the floor, and I understand that, yes, Councillor Fisher is seconding, so you have the call.
Yes, thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. My understanding is that in or about 2015, the Blaxland Chamber of Commerce received a grant for the provision of CCTV cameras in Blaxland, and that they have not worked in all of that time. There have been various media articles about this, including in the metropolitan media as well as local media. And in conversations I've had with local business owners over recent weeks, they are still not working. A significant amount of public money was given to the Blaxland Chamber of Commerce for the provision of these cameras. We're told vaguely that there was some court case involving the supplier. Well, that court case has taken longer than Mabo to resolve. I don't know what the court case is, what court it's in, who the plaintiffs are, what the case number is, what the hearing dates are, who the witnesses are, no details. All I do know is that the cameras are still not working. In the last week, local businesses have reported to me an indecent exposure of a 14-year-old child occurred under one of these unworking cameras. Police sought footage. There was none. Local businesses did their best to provide their own footage. There was a domestic assault in Blaxland outside another business where a woman was bundled into a car right underneath one of these cameras. Again, no footage. And I know that Councillor Miles, Madam Deputy Mayor, will speak to other instances that he's outlined to me. The simple fact is that money was given to the Blaxland Chamber of Commerce for the provision of CCTV cameras that were supposed to make the Blaxland community safer. And here we are at least 7 years later and they are not working. It's inexcusable. There are no valid excuses for it. Well, there's a new government in town. The president of the Blaxland Chamber of Commerce has corresponded with the media on this matter in a media performance I can only describe as needing work. But there are no clear answers. And on that basis, Madam Deputy Mayor, I'd like to see whether or not in this motion ascertain as a matter of fact that the cameras are not working, and then refer the matter to the new minister. The new minister whose alignment is somewhat different to the old minister, and seek that new minister's intervention, which could take various forms. It could take the provision or the referral of that CCTV to a law enforcement agency or other more competent agency that could actually run them, perhaps, or maybe it could resolve in the minister seeking the funding back. I don't know, but the previous government, despite our entreaties, didn't intervene. What I'd like to see is these cameras made to work. I'd like to see those who are responsible for them not working held to account. Now, I'm not saying it's the Chamber of Commerce that's responsible. It may not be. That we've heard about some court case. The details are hazy at best. Maybe there's some other person or person in the legal form of a company who may be responsible. I don't know, but I want these cameras working. Crimes have been committed, crimes against the vulnerable, crimes against property, crimes against my constituents that could have been, could have had their detection assisted if these cameras were in fact working, which was the intention when public money was doled out for that purpose. Now, I know CCTV cameras are working elsewhere. I don't know why this particular issue has arisen with Blaxland. But Madam Deputy Mayor, this is a significant issue about the expenditure and accountability of public money and about the protection of our community. And on that basis, Madam Deputy Mayor, the steps set out in my mayoral minute are appropriate to the circumstances. Thank you.
Mr Mayor. Does the seconder wish to speak? Councillor Fisher?
Yes, thank you. Just to agree with the Mayor that this really is a matter of community safety, and I think it's prudent for us to seek clarity around this issue and to hopefully see it resolved one way or another.
Thank you, Councillor Fisher. Are there any other speakers for the motion?
Yes, I'll speak if I may.
Oh,
Councillor Miles.
Councillor Miles, yep, and then Councillor Schreiber.
Thank you for that. I note that Councillor Christie is not yet logged on. I draw the council's attention to the fact that 3 years ago he raised this issue in both the Sunday Telegraph and the Blue Mountains Gazette of an alleged sexual assault where the cameras were not working and the inability of police to have the evidence to commence inquiries. 3 years is too long. 3 seconds is too long. We have to take community safety seriously, and I think this council does. So our questions need to go to the Blaxland Chamber, because 3 years from being in the Sydney media, and yet we still don't have cameras that work. We don't have an explanation as to why they don't work. I think that there's very serious issues here that the public is entitled to know. They're entitled to know if they're safe in that precinct. They're entitled to know if their money has been well spent. They're entitled to know whether there are procedures in place to look at the operation of these funds, where the money has been given, in this case, by the federal government, but the CCTV sums of money given by the state government as well. All these programs need to work. The cameras need to work. And we can't stop on this issue until we get some answers. And I hope the new federal government can at least give us some clarity. And I really hope that the Blaxland Chamber will step up and say this is what the situation is. And I would urge them to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Miles. Councillor Schreiber.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. Yes, there is a problem with the CTV cameras, not only in Blaxland, but in other areas as well, Madam Deputy Mayor, such as Lura and Katoomba. And I believe now would be the right time to have them investigated as well to see why they're not working and if they can be seen to get working. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm assuming that's just a comment and not, it's not related to the motion as a substantive motion.
Well, it is a comment. It is a comment, Madam Deputy Mayor, in regards to these CTV cameras not working across other villages in the mountains.
No amendment is accepted, Councillor Hollywood.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. All right. Are there any other speakers? Okay, so it hasn't been spoken against, so I will put the motion. So all of those in favour of this motion? Any against? No, I declare that carried unanimously. Thank you. And I'll hand back to the Mayor.
Yes, thank you, Madam Deputy Mayor. We'll now move on to item number 22, which relates to the intersection of the Great Western Highway and Summer Street, Lawson. It's moved Councillor Hollywood, seconded Councillor West. Councillor Hollywood has the call.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And look, again, I hope that this notice of motion is fairly self-explanatory. I want to acknowledge that I was approached by a community member who said that quite a number of parents at Our Lady of Nativity had been very concerned about the recent, there's been a few accidents that have occurred at this intersection or near and about this intersection on the Great Western Highway at Lawson. And while I personally don't know the details of those accidents, what has caused them, it does seem that we've got a pattern and a trend. And I think it's really important when we start to see these patterns and trends that we actually start to investigate them. Now, I put in a customer service request and that was referred to the staff. The staff, as you'll see in the operational report, actually have met as they should, and I really appreciate that meeting took place. with the officers from the Transport for New South Wales. And there is a broad agreement that particularly as you're coming up the hill from Hazelbrook into Lawson, that you've really got, because of the topography and the really historic rock, Sydney rock, that it's very difficult to see that the lights, what is actually happening with the lights, is particularly when you're heading west. And as the report also notes, even if you're going east, most people are very used to the lights being green. And in fact, at school times, though, you've got actually a lot of cross traffic going, including school buses. And there was actually a school bus that was involved in an incident. So the purpose of this motion is really to step it up and try and get a bit more momentum at a political level. We know we've had the advice from officers. They've also had advice with their peers in the state government department. And so now I hope that you will support this, that we write to our state member, Trish Doyle, so that she may be able to take this matter forward on behalf of our community.
Thank you. Does the seconder wish to speak? Seconder yields. Anyone else wish to speak? Is there any opposition? There's no opposition. There's one matter before us. I'll put it. All those in favour? Against, declare it carried unanimously. Item number 23 has been passed, actually, so I don't need to deal with that. Bracey's been passed. I now move on to matters of urgency. I have one matter of urgency before me. Just check with the executive officer. We only have one matter of urgency tonight.
That's correct, Mark.
Yes, and that's the matter of urgency standing in the name of Councillor Hollywood. I do declare that the matter is urgent due to the timelines around council meetings towards the end of the year. I'll ask Councillor Hollywood, as part of her 5 minutes, to simply explain to the public what the resolution does, and it is seconded by Councillor West. Councillor Hollywood has the call.
Thanks very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for deeming this to be urgent. I mean, basically, I really hope that we can get a briefing before the end of the year. So what's given rise to this urgency motion is that at Lawson, as per the council report in May this year, an electric vehicle charging station has been installed. I don't know that it's actually fully operational yet, but it's in the process of being installed at Lawson. But unfortunately, there was a lot of consternation and concern ventilated on social media around the fact that during the construction phase, it looked like it was 6 car spots were going to be lost. And then I managed to convince people it wasn't 6, but there's still statements that haven't been corrected where it's stating that it could be potentially 4 spots, which I've had advice from officers that it is not 4 spots, it's actually 2 spots, but I think it would be really good for us just to have the opportunity to have the briefing. But more importantly, the other matters that came up that are in the urgency motion is in the May report, it states that we would look to replace those 2 spots elsewhere within the Lawson village. And also, so I want to know what's actually happening with that, and I hope that other councillors are interested too. And then the other thing is we have a priority parking precinct plan that my understanding was drafted in 2019, and I'm really keen to know what's actually happening with that because that's been raised by community members. And so it's really important that we are able to get briefed so that we can feed that information back to the community as and when it arises. So I really hope you'll support that motion. Also, there is an additional point to find out what is actually happening with the other electric vehicles charging station that we have council approval, our governing body has approved to be installed in Blaxland. And I know that quite a number of community members, as well as the mayor and Ward 4 councillors, are keen to know where that is up to as well. So if we can be fully briefed as we go into the summer period, that would be great. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Holly. Was the seconder wish to speak?
Only to say that I would welcome a briefing for some clarity for the community and myself, and particularly just to know more about the priority parking precinct plan. Say that 5 times quickly. Yeah, thank you.
Very difficult, Councillor West. Councillor Fisher, did you have any words you want to add on the Blaxland matter? I note that it's in there, or are you content with what's before us?
I think also it'd be good to have some clarity around the Blaxland EV station, because there was, my understanding was that there was an EV station coming to Blaxland. So it'd be good to have some clarity around when that's happening. Yeah, so I look forward to a briefing as well.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Councillor Fisher. Any other councillors wish to speak? Any opposition to this matter? There being none, I'll put it. All those in favour? Against? I declare it carried unanimously. Check with the executive officer or indeed the executive business manager. Are there any other items that the council needs to consider tonight?
No, Mr. Mayor.
So our business is done?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, thank you. We'll now have a motion to close the meeting.
Sorry,
It's moved Councillor Fell.
Mr. Mayor.
So, yeah, Councillor Hoare, I see you, and I have to have a motion first. So just hold. I'll call you when I'm good and ready. I have a motion moved Councillor Fell, seconded Councillor West, that the meeting be closed. Councillor Hoare, did you wish to address us on closure?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Look, I wish to apologise for failing to withdraw the précis of correspondence, but there was just a question that I wanted to raise on one of the items in there. I wonder if I might be able to.
No, unfortunately, that would be out of order,
speak
Councillor
on
Hoare.
that.
No, that's out of order. That matter's dealt with. You can address us on closure, but you can't address us on an item that's been passed.
Right. Well, if I could perhaps address this on closure on the matter of the Clairvaux Community Centre at
No,
Katoomba.
Councillor Hoare, unfortunately, you've missed the opportunity. The item has been passed,
Right.
and closure doesn't give you a second chance. Unfortunately, we've had some success there, I know, but you missed it, unfortunately, and that's that.
Yes, I was,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's right. I'll just rely on the goodwill of those concerned to.
Councillor Hoare, I don't
make
need the
representations.
explanation during a formal council meeting, but thank you. I'll leave you to deal with that matter as you see fit.
Yep.
Anyone else wish to address us on closure? No? Then I'll put it. All those in favour of closing the meeting? Against? I declare it carried, and I wish you all a fond good night.
Thank you.
Good night.
Much. Good night.
Thanks, Toby. We can end the meeting.
Good night. That must be a record.